So up to this point we have only seen aldol condensations between two equivalents of the same molecule. Like for instance the example that I have used in my previous two videos on the aldol condensation in basic and acidic conditions, where we have used acetone and make the corresponding unsaturated compound via the either acidic or basic conditions. Here is another example where I am taking two equivalents of my cyclopentanone, and as a result I am getting this alpha-beta unsaturated compound with two cycles. Or here is another example where I take the regular pentanone and I make this complex looking molecule as a result. And while I am not showing the complete mechanism for either of those reactions here, I do challenge you to copy those down and write the mechanism based on the mechanism that we have discussed in the previous two videos. Now, the topic of this video is going to be the mixed aldol condensation, where we are bringing two different carbonyls and reacting those with each other. So to make it a little bit easier for us to see where things go, I'm going to color code my carbonyls, one green, one blue, and in this case if we were to mix those guys together in either basic or acidic conditions and add some heat, there are quite a few different products that we can get. We can get a product where the blue and green molecule react together in two different combinations, giving two different alpha-beta unsaturated compounds, and we can have a situation where our green molecule reacts with the green molecule and the blue molecule reacts with the blue molecule. So by now you can already see the problem with the mixed aldol condensation is that if we just mix the molecules together, we are going to get a crazy soup of products, and best of luck trying to isolate them. So what are we going to do in this case? Well, there are actually three approaches that we are going to see. The first approach to the mixed aldol condensation is going to be rooted in the different reactivity of our carbonyls. Let's look at this combination. I'm trying to do a reaction between an aldehyde and a ketone in acidic conditions. Aldehyde happens to be a more polar and a more electrophilic species, which means that in the overall equilibrium of all possible components that we have in our mixture and will have due to the keto-enol tautomerism, the aldehyde is going to be playing a role of the electrophile the most. And if my aldehyde here is going to be an electrophile, then the ketone is going to be producing a nucleophile. Ketone by itself is not going to be a nucleophile, but it is going to make a nucleophile via the keto-enol tautomerism. So if I wanted to draw my two possible enols that I can get from both of my aldehyde and the ketone, in the case of my aldehyde, I'm going to see an enol looking something like that, and in the case of my ketone, this is going to be the structure of my enol. And since this is an equilibrium, all of these species are going to be present at our equilibrium to some extent. Of course, the keto-enol tautomerism in acidic conditions only gives us a small amount of our enols, so the major composition is going to be made up out of my aldehyde and a ketone. So, as I have already decided at the beginning, my aldehyde, this species, is going to be my electrophile and the nucleophile is going to be coming from my ketone. So what I'm going to be doing here, I will be looking at the reaction between the aldehyde itself and the enol coming from my ketone, because it's not the carbonyl itself, rather it's the enol form that is going to be our nucleophile. So I'm going to draw the protonated version of my aldehyde to make it even more electrophilic. I will redraw my enol and I will turn it around so it's a little bit easier to show the curved arrows here, and our attack is going to look like this, where we are going to end up making a new carbon-carbon bond between this carbon of my enol and the carbon of my carbonyl. And as a result of my nucleophilic attack here, I'm going to make this compound where I have formed a new bond between those two carbons that I have highlighted in my curved arrow mechanism portion. Now, we know that this part is essentially a protonated aldol intermediate, and since we are doing our reaction at a higher temperature, we are not going to be stopping at the formation of the aldol, Rather, we are going to be moving on to the elimination step and making the alpha-beta unsaturated compound. So in order to make that alpha-beta unsaturated compound, in order to do the elimination, I'm going to take this hydrogen that I have next to my carbonyl, bring in water or whatever we have floating around with an electron pair, deprotonate that, reforming our enol, giving us the following species. Then we are going to protonate our OH to convert that into a good leaving group, making the following intermediate, and then from this point we are going to kick our water out, giving us a protonated alpha-beta unsaturated compound, which will ultimately lose the proton to our solvent and give us the final product, alpha-beta unsaturated compound. So remember, whenever you have a mixture of an aldehyde and a ketone that you are trying to react with each other, aldehyde is going to be our electrophile, and ketone, if it is possible to enolize your ketone, is going to make a nucleophile. And one more thing, although it's not the focus of this video, one thing that you need to keep in mind is that the double bond that you are making in these reactions can be potentially source of stereochemistry. So you could have E or Z stereoisomers here. In this particular case, my highest priority is going to be this carbon and this carbon, so for this particular reaction, I showed the formation of the E stereoisomer. But you can potentially analyze whatever you are dealing with, and sometimes instructors do ask about those stereo descriptors, so keep an eye on that, because it may or may not be relevant towards your, homework or quiz or test or whatever it is you're working on. Now, is it possible that the small amount of the enol that we have from our aldehyde will react with our ketone over here? Yes, absolutely. Is it possible that this enol reacts with the aldehyde? Also true. On top of that, we can have this enol reacting with the ketone as well, and that is also a possibility. So this type of combination is never going to be a clean-cut process. You are not going to get just one product. You are going to end up with all possible products here. However, the major product that you're going to end up when you are dealing with this type of a mixture is going to be the product of the aldehyde acting as the electrophile and the enol coming from the ketone reacting as the nucleophile. That's going to be a major product in addition to all the other possibilities that you are definitely going to make here. So while this reaction is predictable, it's not very clean. Now, the next possibility is a little bit better. In the next type of combination, we have a non-enolizable carbonyl reacting with the regular aldehyde or a ketone. So, for instance, let's look at this combination of benzaldehyde and butanol. And again, I'm going to do my reaction in the acidic conditions at higher temperature. So, looking at my two aldehydes here, I don't really have any significant difference in reactivity. Both of them are aldehydes, both of them are fairly electrophilic. However, the one on the left, my benzaldehyde, we do not have any hydrogens in the alpha position that I have over here. And if we do not have any hydrogens in the alpha position, that is going to be a non-enolizable carbonyl, meaning that I cannot convert that into an enol. And if I cannot convert that into an enol, it means that the only function that benzaldehyde, my left molecule, can act as is going to be an electrophile. This is an electrophile-only species. My other molecule, my butanol, however, we do have hydrogens in this alpha position, so that one is in fact enolizable, which means that I can do the keto-enol tautomerization with that guy and convert that into the corresponding enol species. So now if I have my enol, which is my nucleophile, and I have my other carbonyl, which is going to be my electrophile, so what I'm going to do now, I will protonate my benzaldehyde, have those guys react with each other like so, making a new carbon-carbon bond between the alpha position of my enol and the carbon of my carbonyl, looking like this. Then I'm going to re-enolize my molecule by pulling the proton from the alpha position, protonate my OH group to make that into a good leaving group. Then I will get rid of my leaving group, like so, ultimately giving me my final product after I lose that proton. Now, while this reaction is somewhat better, it is still not ideal, because the enol that we are forming over here, yes, it will react with our benzaldehyde, but on top of that, it can also react with our other aldehyde, which means that we are going to make a mix of products regardless. And while our intended final product over here is going to be our major product, we are still going to have a soup of other stuff which we may not necessarily want to see around to begin with. So is there a better way to control our reaction? And yes, there is a better way. What we really want in the case of the mixed aldol condensation is to be able to control our enolization process, or in other words, to specifically say which of the two species is going to be converted into the enolate. And yes, I'm using the term enolate because this can only be done in basic conditions. So let's go back to that original example that I had at the very beginning of this video, where I mixed two ketones and made a mess out of it. Now let's say that the target molecule that we want to make is this compound over here, the very first one, so I'm going to put that into a box. This is my target molecule, that's what I want to make. Now, if that is the case, that the first thing that I'm going to do here, I will analyze my molecules and see which one is going to be the nucleophile and which one should be an electrophile here. The first thing that is jumping at me here is that this carbon is making a bond with the carbon of the carbonyl. So we have the alpha position making a bond with the carbon of the carbonyl. The alpha position is the one that is always going to be a part of the nucleophile, which means that I will need to take my green molecule, my acetophenone, and convert that selectively into an enolate species. And of course, in order to convert that into the enolate, we are going to take this acetophenone, treat that with the appropriate base, which going to come in, snatch one of those protons, like so, giving me my enolate, plus whatever conjugate acid I'm going to make out of that base. So the choice of a base here is going to be extremely important, because depending on the base strength, this enolization is going to either have a large equilibrium constant or it is going to have a very low equilibrium constant. For instance, if my base is the ethoxide, that means that my conjugate acid is going to be ethanol, and if I look at the pKa values, the pKa value for the acetophenone is about 19, the pKa value for the ethanol is about 16, which means that in this particular case, my equilibrium constant is going to be somewhere around 10 to the negative third, which is hardly a full enolization. It's not anywhere close to 100% product that I want to get. As a matter of fact, I'll be lucky if I have 1% of my product here. But what if I take a stronger base? Let's say we take something like sodium hydride. The conjugate acid in this case is going to be H2, with the pKa estimated to be around 35. Well, in this case, I'm actually going to end up with an equilibrium constant of somewhere around 10 to the 16th power, which is an astronomical number, which means that we are looking at 100% enolization in this case. And if you need a refresher on the enolization of carbonyls, I do have a dedicated tutorial on that, so you might want to check it out. Now, what that means is that now we can do this stepwise process where we will take our carbonyl, whichever carbonyl we want to serve as a nucleophile, and enolize that first. So in this case, that's going to be acetophenone. I will treat it with something like sodium hydride. That will do my enolization, giving me the corresponding enolate. Then, once I have my enolate, I'm going to add the second component to it, so now these guys can react with each other, making a new carbon-carbon bond between the alpha carbon of my enolate and the carbon of my carbonyl, looking like this. And then from this point, we need to protonate that negatively charged species, doing my H3O plus workup and making the aldol product. But if I want a double bond, I'm just going to increase the temperature and cause the elimination reaction via the enolization, giving us the final product looking like this. Now, in this case, I do not have any significant side reactions, which means means that I can actually have a very high yield of my intended product, and I will not be afraid of making a whole bunch of other compounds that I don't want to see in my reaction mixture. Yes, it is a little bit tedious because we need to have multiple steps here, but it is much cleaner. So remember, if you want to do a clean mixed aldol condensation, you want to do it via the controlled enolization. So our step number 1 is going to be enolizing our molecule to make 100% enolization. Then in the next step 2, we are going to take our enolate and we are going to react it with the other carbonyl to make our new carbon-carbon bond. Then we are either going to do simple workup to make an aldol, or we are going to do the workup at high temperature to make an alpha-beta unsaturated compound via the elimination reaction from the aldol to this alpha-beta unsaturated guy. So this way you can neatly control what you make, how you make, and what sort of a product you are going to get. Now, let's say I have the same starting materials, but now I want to do a different combination, and I want to have my double bond being over here between what used to be a carbonyl on the acetophenone and the alpha position on my acetone. So what I'm going to do in this case is that I'm going to take my acetone and make an enolate out of that molecule instead. So here, my step number 1 is going to be to take my acetone, enolize that guy with a strong base, making the corresponding enolate. Then in my step number 2, I'm going to bring my benzophenone, which now is going to serve as an electrophile, so the electrons from my enolate are going to attack the carbonyl carbon of the acetophenone, making the following intermediate where my new bond is right over here. And now if I do my acidic workup, I'm going to get the aldol product, and if I increase my temperature, I'm going to cause the elimination reaction, and I'm going to end up with my alpha-beta unsaturated compound as my final product. So again, here my step number 1 was a specific enolization of the acetone. Step number 2 was the reaction between my enolate and the carbonyl, which made my new carbon-carbon bond. Then I can do either simple acidic workup to make an aldol, or increase the temperature and get the alpha-beta unsaturated final product. Easy peasy. Now, I understand that all these mechanisms and approaches and synthetic pathways can be a little bit overwhelming. So, in the next video, we are going to go through a bunch of examples where I will look both at the acidic basic aldol condensation and will look more into the mixed aldol condensation and how to approach those questions. So make sure you hit the like button, subscribe so you don't miss that one, and I'll see you next time.